I think that you have to know that you have the love of this thing in you before you approach it. If you have a romantic idea that it would be nice to be an organic farmer, you need to know what the work feels like. We wanted food that was clean, so we started growing food for our family, and little by little, as we expanded, we realized that we needed a market for the excess, and we kept on expanding our garden and realized that what we wanted to do was have a market for our produce. And this is a problem for a lot of small growers, is finding that market. So what happened was we eventually got together and invented the Moss Street Market. And we decided that it would be just for organic producers and craftspeople. And out of that need has arisen a real bond between the growers. And because of that necessity, we've just sort of developed this really strong bond.
It's hard work, but it's a great love of mine. I think that we need to increase the awareness of the need for organic.
I've been interested in organic farming and started maybe even as much as 20 years ago with my first garden. And for the last 5 years have been doing it relatively intensely, mostly for friends and family. And this year I decided to share my bounty because it's just such a wonderful lifestyle. Growing your own food and knowing that it is healthy and with very few chemicals. In a really polluted society, it's really nice to know that you're having something that's relatively clean to eat.
I got started farming about 3 years ago, and I have found, I used to be a teacher, and I love to teach, but I found working in the land and with the soil, I've never been happier in my life, and I enjoy just playing in the dirt, and the watching things grow, and I love being here at the market, talking with people about what I do and the food I grow, and I love my camaraderie with the women and the other farmers that I work with. I think when people think of farmers, they usually think of big, brawny men, and for me, being able to cope physically with hard work, to haul a wheelbarrow full of rocks up a hill, and to drive a tractor, and to deal with equipment, and that's really feels good. It feels good that I can do that, and that I have the independence to do that. That I don't have to rely on someone stronger than I am for that. And that feels really good for me as a woman. And the tractor came with a manual, and I read it the first time. It didn't make a lot of sense. So you need to reread it and reread it each time you use it, because you keep seeing new things in the manual. So what I have here is I'll start it in the fastest, and I'll go roaring down there, and you'll all trot along behind me, okay? And then I'll get one of you on it to drive it, okay? Okay, so I'm going to start it in third gear. Okay, the front end loader is I'll have to lift it, okay.
Whenever one of us has a skill that the others would like to learn, we take the opportunity to teach. And For instance, we went over to Mary's farm, and she has a tractor, and she taught us how to use the tractor. And skills like that are really hard to come by because it's really difficult to ask some man, you know, could you teach me to drive your tractor? But when we're together with the other women, we don't seem to feel that sort of self-consciousness of sort of exposing our ignorance, you know, and saying, I'd like to learn that. Can you teach me?
Each plant has its own sort of needs, and sometimes it's really hard to read what those needs are. I find that often if you ask the plants, they'll tell you what it is that they need, and it's like raising children. Each individual has its own wants and desires, and I think plants are very much the same way. The soil needs humus in the form of manure or straw or compost to actually feed, because it's a living organism. Manure is one of my favorite things. I would just love in a contest to win a pile of manure. It has everything that every plant could possibly need, and you put it there and the plant takes from the manure whatever it specifically needs. I love the whole miracle that happens when you put a seed in the ground. And it starts out as this really teeny weeny little seedling. And then by the end of the gardening season, you've got these huge plants that look like a jungle that have totally taken over and filled up the space. And Mother Nature just does it all for you. Certainly there is a lot of physical labor involved in the growing process, but it's still a miracle in which you only assist. One can't take the credit for it.
Come on, you guys, out. Come on, out you go. Darling. Come on. Out you go. Out. Out. Come on, you guys. Well, all was farmed organically, oh yes, yeah. And I'm a great lover of organic swamps. We cleared our swamp up on the mountain. We had one organic swamp up there and we cleared it. And I'll tell you, I grew head lettuce, New York head lettuce that you wouldn't believe. I don't know how many pounds they weighed, but they were just enormous and beautiful.
When they started coming out with all these pesticides and chemicals, did you ever think to use them, or
I never used them.
was that a conscious decision, or
Well,
you just never needed
yes
them?
and no. I was very reluctant to poison any plant that an animal might eat. And I mean, you can't always control your spray onto just what you want to kill, you know.
So maybe having the animals with all the rich manure, plus being concerned
Oh,
about
yes.
their health, kept
Oh,
you
yes.
organic as much
Oh
as
yes,
anything.
definitely. There was no need to put money out to buy chemical fertilizer. One day, I think, I really believe this, I don't want to be a prophet of gloom and doom, but I believe that the North American continent may be faced with famine. Not in my time, but maybe in some of these young people's time.
Kind of smell? Is it? How did you find that? I was just thinking about how, I'm supposed to be teaching these guys. I spend more time learning from them than I do teaching them.
I think the women in our group probably started out doing these things on their own. I think when I think about all of them, They all somehow got into the idea that they could farm against all odds here in Canada, because this is really something very new in our generation, certainly.